the staff critique of the project is what Councilmember Schreiber is talking about, and it's pretty clear. In fact, I think it was pretty clear tonight that the residents of the city are a bit baffled by this proposal before us and are genuinely interested in why we might be entertaining it at this stage. And that brought up some issues that obviously made some council members uncomfortable. But it just happens that the first applicant in a string of DAs will be coming before this council is someone who was active in a recent election and funded an independent expenditure campaign that misrepresented the endorsements of a number of valued community groups, including our police and our fire and our education community. So I don't think it's all that unusual that people would have questions. And if you remember, Council, back in early January, I suggested that we might wish to just voluntarily disclose that information as a way of keeping this from becoming even more mistrustful. I think that to react then by saying the council members having conversations with our own residents is a problem to public process is not a particularly productive reaction. That would seem a recipe for diminished communication between elected officials and those whom we represent. I think that's why we're up here. Now, that said, we could solve the problem with greater disclosure, and this council has seemed very sensitive to suggestions made in Western City Magazine, which is the California League of Cities magazine. Because of one article in that magazine, the council chose to remove the council liaisons from our boards and commissions. Well, over months and months and months, there have been articles in Western City about disclosure and about how if there is a public perception of a disclosure problem, that it is incumbent upon elected officials to go, if necessary, far beyond what the law requires us to do. They've said things like, when it comes to public service ethics, the public's perception equals reality. The law creates minimum standards for public servants' conduct. The prevailing analysis of elected officials should be, quote, along the lines of, now that we know what the law requires, are there steps we can take to go above and beyond? How can an agency make public information more readily available? What kinds of information might be of interest to a cross-section of the public relating to the agency's operations and decision-making? And are there ways that information could be made available without individual members of the public having to ask for it? So in that spirit, that was why back in January I suggested we do it. Instead, we saw what happens. The community took it on itself to do the research, and they have every right in the world to do that. And I'm frankly proud that they took the effort. I think it shows an engagement on the part of our citizens that's quite laudable. But I want to get to the project, and I have been involved with the Luce as a member of the public, as a city council member, and as, until recently, the liaison of the Planning Commission for 6.5 years. I remember a public float-up with this developer in December of 2009. I remember a Planning Commission meeting I attended in January of 2010. There was another public meeting just a little while ago in February of this year where the community, I thought, quite articulately described what it hoped for in this project. And looking at that, and then looking at what the applicant came to us with tonight, I'm going to ask a deliberately impertinent question. Why are you here tonight? Do you expect the council to reverse the conversations that we've had with the community and our planning commission and our staff? I mean, just to describe the discord between what you brought to us and what the community and our professional planners have been asking for years now, I have only to look at this attachment E that was delivered to us tonight. And what this attachment has, it's a series of tables. The first column is the loose goal or policy, and then the last column is the issues with the project. And in the middle is a quick column that says comply. So look at the first couple of pages of this. Needs revision. Not successfully. No. No. In some locations. Needs revision. No. Somewhat. Not a glowing review. And as a council member, I have great respect for the work that staff has done and for what the Planning Commission has done in their attempts to advise us. We've also received correspondence in the last couple of days that calls into some question whether the fiscal statements were delivered to the city in a timely fashion for a development agreement application, whether the DA application is indeed at this point complete, and I was interested to learn tonight that this project cannot go forward at this point in any format without a development agreement. And I'm not even sure that at this point the scoping and the timeliness of the draft environmental impact report are upon us, because remember, we took a HUD grant for an area plan for this and the creative arts section. That's not been done. How can we go into the environmental process on one project of part of a large area where we've already acknowledged by asking the federal government for money that we need to do some more regional planning? I think that the timing is not ripe for this project, and the project is wrong for where it's going to be and for what we want. The planning director and I and Councilmember O'Connor attended an environmental planning conference this past weekend, and there was one particularly inspiring speaker on Saturday night who talked about how the creative cities are the places where cultures and intellects and business and residential all mix together, and that this is sort of exciting cross-pollination that goes on. We certainly can't create that regionally, but we can certainly do what we can to create it in this very important project. Let me really stress, this is the cornerstone of the new Santa Monica. This location is key. Whatever we do here, both because of location and because of where it is in the process of building out this neighborhood, is really the deciding moment in going forward. I cannot go forward with this project given what I see as a lack of meaningful dialogue between the developer and the community. At this point in time, I really think we need to step back and say, you know, we hope you'll look at all the materials that our staff has presented for you. It really does distill what the community has told us and what good professional planning calls upon us to do. Look at that. Please scrap that project and come back to us with something that we
Ladies
can
and
then
gentlemen,
begin
please.
to talk about. At that point, I'd be happy to direct staff to enter into negotiation with the developer on a development agreement. But at this point tonight, I would not be able to do that.